Now, I don't think we know why Vladimir Putin really decided to invade Ukraine. Who knows what lurks in his hard little heart. But we do know that lots of people who are sympathetic to Putin or who are at least inclined to apologize for or explain away the worst of what Putin does, a lot of those people had a favorite supposed explanation for why Putin felt the need to start that war. A lot of Putin apologists and Putin sympathizers said that Putin felt like he had to invade Ukraine because he felt very shy about NATO. The NATO alliance just had too many countries in it, too many countries that were too close to Russia, and that all just gave Putin this terrible cooties feeling about NATO being too close, and so therefore he had to invade Ukraine. Again, I don't actually think that's it. I don't think we know all the reasons why he does what he does. Who knows what's going on in his little short dictator heart of hearts? But if, in fact, the apologists are at least partially correct, if, in fact, Putin was hoping that one of the effects of him invading Ukraine would be a brushback to NATO, that he would be able to worry less about NATO and somehow starting this war would make that happen, sorry. When Putin invaded Ukraine, there were 30 countries in NATO. Now there are about to be 32. Finland was the 31st country to join in April. That gave Russia 800 more miles of border directly with a NATO country. And now, as of tonight, we know that Sweden is going to join NATO as well. Sweden said months ago that they wanted to join, but this is something that really until today, it looked like it couldn't happen. And that's because for a new country to join NATO, it has to be a unanimous decision. All the other countries in the NATO alliance have to agree with the decision. If one country says no to it, it doesn't happen. And in the case of Sweden, it was an original NATO, it was a NATO member, a single NATO country, Turkey, that said no. They said Finland was okay with them, but they were not okay with Sweden joining. As recently as this weekend, Turkey's president was still saying, no, Turkey would not assent to this. Turkey would not allow Sweden to join. But the Biden administration, President Biden himself, kept expressing confidence that Turkey was going to change its mind on this, that they would allow Sweden to join. And nobody quite knew why President Biden seemed so confident that it would happen. He just kept saying it would be fine, that he was sure it would get done, that he and his team were working on it. Well, now, apparently, as of tonight, they got it done. President Biden had one-on-one discussions with Turkey's president yesterday. President Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, was apparently working with both Turkey and Sweden all day yesterday and today. Secretary of State Tony Blinken reportedly met with the Turkish foreign minister, so his Turkish counterpart, 3 times over the last 5 days, including today. So it apparently took a real full court press at the very top levels of the Biden administration. But as of tonight, they got it done. Turkey has relented. Turkey now agrees. The president has said Sweden joining NATO is fine with him. The Turkish parliament does still have to sign off, but they will. And then Sweden will become NATO country number 32, which is a huge win for President Biden and the Biden administration. This is definitely one of those, they said it couldn't be done situations. It has been done. It's going to happen. That is a huge win for Biden. It also has to be said, it is a humiliating kick in the tiny little dictatorial pants of Russian President Vladimir Putin. I mean, if you started this war in Ukraine because you were so upset at the size of NATO, well, how's that big strategic thinking working out for you now?